Most men live like prisoners of their own labor. They trade hours for coins, believing that hard work will someday grant them freedom. Yet, the cruel truth is this: the moment they stop working, the stream of gold dries up. Meanwhile, the wealthy walk through life untouched by such worries. They are paid forever, whether they lift a finger or not. Today, I will expose how they do it, and how you can too. The common man spends his life in a cycle that resembles slavery, though he may not see it. He wakes, he labors, he collects his wage, and when the sun sets, he rests only to repeat it all again. He imagines that this labor will one day lead him to freedom, yet what he fails to see is that his freedom is chained to his labor. The very moment he stops moving, the coin stops flowing. His livelihood depends not on what he has built, but on what he can perform. He is like a farmer who eats the seed rather than planting it, forever surviving but never advancing. The secret that separates those who are forever paid from those who must forever work is not merely intelligence, nor even effort, but vision. The rich man looks at time differently. Where the worker sees hours to trade for money, the wealthy see hours as bricks with which to build structures that last beyond their own hands. The poor man seeks wages, while the wise man seeks permanence. This is the great division that most men never dare to cross. Consider this: a man who labors for a wage creates value only once. His body, his sweat, his energy are consumed in that moment and gone. Tomorrow, he must do it again, as though yesterday never existed. But the one who understands the art of perpetual wealth creates something that continues to work in his place. It may be a business, an invention, piece of land, or even an idea. The form matters less than the function. What matters is that the system he constructs continues to flow with riches even as he sleeps, travels, or ages. He understands the timeless principle. Money should serve him, not the other way around. This is why many live and die without power, while a chosen few gather riches across generations. The laborer believes money is earned by his hands. The wealthy know it is multiplied by design. A system once created becomes like a fountain, requires effort to build, but once built, it flows endlessly. This is why the rich seem untouchable, why their families live in abundance, even when they themselves are gone. Their machines of wealth do not rely on their presence, for they have designed them to operate beyond their own lives. Notice how the worker is trapped in the illusion of progress. He toils more hours, begs for higher wages, saves a fraction of what little he earns. But all the while, the foundation of his life is unstable. His entire existence depends on whether he can continue to trade time for money. A single sickness, a lost job, or the collapse of an employer destroys everything he has built. He does not control his fate. He only serves the one who does. His hands move, but it is another man who designed the structure in which he labors. Meanwhile, the man of wealth understands that energy should never be wasted on tasks that end when he stops. He asks a different question: how can I make this one action pay me forever? If he writes, he owns the rights. If he builds, he ensures others must pay to use it. If he invests, he chooses assets that reproduce. His entire focus is permanence. He does not chase coins today, he creates rivers of gold that flow tomorrow. This truth, though simple, is hated by the masses, for to admit it is to confront their own chains. They mock the wealthy as greedy, yet secretly envy their freedom. They think that working harder will elevate them, but harder work only deepens their dependence. The secret is not harder labor, but smarter architecture. The rich man is an architect of systems. He spends his time not on the wheel but on building the wheel. Once the wheel turns, it turns without him. The worker is a soldier on the battlefield, exhausted and bleeding, while the wealthy sit in the castle, commanding the strategy. The worker believes the soldier is noble, yet nobility does not win wars, strategy does. In this game of wealth, the laborer is forever exposed, vulnerable to every storm. The man of wealth, however, builds walls that protect him, machines that defend him, and networks that feed him. To see the truth of perpetual wealth is to realize that time itself can be owned. The worker sells his time to another. The wealthy ensure that others sell their time to him. In this exchange, the roles are determined not by morality or effort, but by foresight. Whoever builds the system rules it. Whoever enters the system serves it. The tragedy is that most men do not even attempt to cross this divide. They are taught from birth to seek wages, to chase security, to beg for stability from the very men who profit from their ignorance. Schools teach obedience, not ownership. Employers reward loyalty, not vision. Society praises sacrifice, not sovereignty. In this way, the masses remain bound to the illusion of hard work, while the few rule with the architecture of perpetual wealth. Ownership is the line that divides those who live in dependence from those who live in dominion. A man who owns nothing is a servant by nature, no matter how great his wage may appear, no matter how many years he has given in service. The world may clothe him in titles and flatter him with recognition, but in the end, he has built nothing that endures. His reward perishes with his labor. He is like a man invited to a feast but denied the table. He may taste, but he will never command. The wealthy understand this truth with absolute clarity. If you do not own, you do not control. If you do not control, you are disposable. The pursuit of ownership is the pursuit of permanence. Wages vanish with time, assets accumulate with it. The poor man clings to the illusion that saving a fraction of his earnings will one day grant him security. But he is mistaken. Savings alone cannot free him, for they do not reproduce. They decay with inflation, with emergencies, with the endless demands of life. He is like a man trying to collect water in his hands. It slips away, no matter how tightly he clenches his fingers. The wealthy refuse to grasp with their hands. Instead, they build vessels that hold and multiply the water. Land, enterprises, rights, investments. These are the vessels of permanence. Consider the man who owns a piece of land. While another toils each day to feed himself, the owner rests while others work his soil, pay him rent, or build upon what is his. His fortune grows not because he labors, but because others must. The worker who owns nothing will forever give his sweat to enrich another. The worker tills the soil, the owner owns the harvest. The worker builds the house, owner collects the rent. The worker invents value, the owner captures it. In every exchange of labor, the man without ownership becomes the instrument of the one who has it. The wealthy have mastered leverage, and leverage is the secret weapon of ownership. Leverage means multiplying one's power through the efforts of others. It is the art of standing still while hundreds move in your name. The man who hires workers, who uses borrowed money, who commands the tools of others, becomes like a king without an army. His wealth grows because the work of many feeds his position. He understands that his time is limited, but the time of others is not. By positioning himself as the one who owns the means, he transforms their endless labor into his endless reward. The laborer prides himself on independence, yet his independence is fragile. If his hands fail, his wealth ends. If his employer discards him, his security evaporates. He is dependent upon forces outside his control. The man of ownership is the opposite. His fortunes are not tied to his body, nor to a single employer, nor even to the hours in his day. They are tied to structures that endure whether he is present or not. His wealth is not bound to his health, nor to the favor of another. He has shifted the burden of survival onto others, and they carry it unknowingly, for they believe they are serving themselves while enriching him. Influence flows naturally from ownership. The man who controls resources controls decisions. The man who owns the tools controls the workers who use them. The man who holds the rights to knowledge controls those who need it. In every sphere, ownership bends others to your will without force. One who owns need not shout commands, for necessity itself drives men toward him. They must pay him, serve him, or enrich him, for his control of resources leaves them no choice. Ownership is the invisible throne upon which true power sits. The ordinary man seeks security in promises from his employer or government, but promises can be broken with the stroke of a pen. The man who owns does not need promises, he holds the source of wealth itself. He does not ask for permission, he grants it. He does not beg for stability, he dictates it. The worker's fear is losing his job. The owner's fear is merely mismanaging his dominion. Even in failure, his assets can be sold, his rights can be traded, his creations can be repurposed. He loses ground but never foundation. Observe the merchants of history, the dynasties that stretch across centuries. Their secret was not labor, but ownership. They controlled trade routes, lands, resources, and later industries. Their descendants, even generations later, lived off the same streams of wealth established long ago. A family built on wages cannot pass their labor to their children, for a man cannot give his years twice. But a family built on ownership passes assets that continue to produce long after the original builder has turned to dust. The truth is harsh but undeniable. The man who owns nothing will forever be owned by someone else. His life will be governed by the rules of those who control the resources, the contracts, the property, and the means of production. He may live well for a time, but he is never free. He may feel important in his role, but roles can be replaced. Without ownership, he has no seat at the table of power. He is, at best, a guest whose welcome lasts only as long as his usefulness is not secured by mere possession. It is preserved and multiplied through control. A man may own land, money, or enterprises, yet without the wisdom to wield influence. His holdings can be stripped from him by stronger hands, sharper minds, or more cunning strategists. Power is never guaranteed by what you have. It is guaranteed by how you structure it, how you place yourself within networks, and how you design systems that make others dependent on you. The true art of enduring wealth lies not only in acquisition, but in positioning. The ordinary worker believes power is exercised by effort. He thinks the one who works hardest should naturally rise, and he lives his life convinced that virtue and sacrifice will bring him stability. But reality obeys no such illusions. Control belongs to the one who makes himself indispensable to the structure, not to the one who serves it. The man of wealth does not ask, "How much effort must I give?" but instead, "Where can I stand so that the efforts of others must flow through me?" Influence is not built on sweat, but on placement. Think of the builder of a bridge. Many men may lay stones, cut wood, and sweat under the sun, but the one who commands the design, who dictates the flow of trade across that bridge, is the one who profits endlessly. The worker receives wages once for his labor, but the designer of the bridge receives payment every time another crosses it. This is the principle of control. The wealthy arrange themselves so that others cannot advance, eat, or even survive without passing through the gates they have constructed. Control also rests on shaping perception. The wealthy know that influence is not always enforced by chains or force, but often by belief. Men willingly serve when they are convinced they benefit. Contracts, wages, promises, and social hierarchies are all illusions crafted to keep others moving in service of the system. The man of influence constructs narratives that justify his throne, and those narratives make his control invisible. The soldier obeys not because the general compels him, but because he believes the general's vision. The laborer continues not because he enjoys his toil, because he believes he is safe under the system. Thus, wealth and power are protected by stories as much as by walls. Observe how the wealthy embed themselves at the center of networks. They are not merely participants in trade, politics, or industry. They are the axis around which these circles turn. Banks, corporations, and dynasties remain strong because they are the point of convergence for many. To pull away from them would bring chaos to those who depend on their stability. This is no accident, it is by design. To achieve true influence, one must not be easily replaceable. The man of control arranges things so that to harm him would mean harming everyone tied to him. In this way, he creates a shield stronger than any sword. The difference between possession and control is the difference between vulnerability and strength. A man may own a house, but if laws, taxes, or debts can strip it from him, then his ownership is fragile. A man of wealth ensures that he not only owns, but commands the rules surrounding ownership. He aligns himself with the lawmakers, the institutions, the unseen architects of policy. Thus, his possessions are not subject to the whims of others. Instead, others' whims bend around his possessions. Influence is the higher form of wealth. It bends reality itself. Even in business, the principle is clear. The man who works in his own company may profit, but he is still vulnerable if the business requires his constant hand. The one who designs a business so that it runs without him, through layers of managers, contracts, and systems, wields true control. He has not created just a business but a throne. Workers serve him, customers enrich him, and competitors must adapt to him. He can disappear, and yet the system feeds him without pause. This is the essence of influence, constructing machines that need not your presence, forever require your authority. The wealthy also exploit the natural tendency of men to seek leaders. Most fear responsibility, most crave direction, and most are content to serve under someone who appears to know the path. The man of wealth steps into this void with confidence. He acts as though he already possesses authority, and in time, others accept it as truth. Once accepted, it becomes reality. Influence is as much about perception as it is about resources. If men believe you are the center of power, they will act as though you are, and their actions themselves create the power they perceive. Notice how the laborer spends his life trying to secure his position, fearing dismissal, clinging to promises of stability. The man of influence creates the positions others cling to. He can replace men at will, for they serve not him directly but the structure he has built. If one leaves, another takes his place, and the system continues unbroken. His control lies in designing a game in which the players can change, but the outcome never does. In this way, he is untouchable. This is why the rich man rarely fears the storms that terrify the poor. A crisis may shake markets, topple businesses, or destroy jobs, but the man of influence has already woven himself so deeply into the fabric of society that even in chaos, he profits. While others panic, he buys at discounts. While others lose, he gains control. Influence transforms danger into opportunity, because no matter the circumstance, the flow of necessity runs through his hands. If a man desires to be paid forever, he must abandon the illusion that labor itself is the path to freedom. Labor is a chain, a contract written in invisible ink, one that binds him to the limits of his body and the mercy of circumstance. To step into perpetual wealth, he must think not as a worker, but as a strategist. He must ask not how much he can earn today, but how he can construct streams that will flow tomorrow without his presence. The rich are not magicians, nor are they born with powers others lack. They simply understand that wealth must be built once, but paid for endlessly. The first step toward such an empire is a shift in loyalty. The common man is loyal to wages, believing that the exchange of his time for money is the safest road. Yet time is the one thing he cannot multiply. Each day stolen by labor is a day never recovered. The man of strategy turns his loyalty away from wages and toward assets. He asks himself, what can I create, acquire, or control that will continue to feed me long after I have ceased touching it? This question, once asked with sincerity, begins to separate him from the herd. To build such permanence, one must think in terms of systems rather than tasks. A task completed today is dead tomorrow. A system built today lives tomorrow and the day after. The man of perpetual wealth builds systems. It may be a business structured to function without him, an investment that yields returns indefinitely, or intellectual property that others must pay to use. The form does not matter, only the function. What matters is that it continues to generate without his hands pushing it forward. The worker toils endlessly at the wheel. Builder of systems designs the wheel to turn itself. There is also the necessity of multiplication. The poor man saves, clutching desperately at coins, never realizing that stagnant money is dying money. Inflation, taxes, and emergencies consume it until nothing remains. The wise builder multiplies his wealth. He invested into fields that bear fruit. Real estate, enterprises, ventures that grow. He does not hoard his wealth in silence. He sets it into motion. For motion creates growth, and growth creates endurance. His wealth does not sit, it breeds. Perpetual income also requires positioning. A man must embed himself where others have no choice but to enrich him. He may create a service that people cannot live without, product that society depends on, or a resource that others must pay to access. By placing himself in the path of necessity, he transforms human need into his own security. This is not chance but design. When others cannot avoid passing through your gates, you have built an empire that pays you even in your absence. There is also the matter of resilience. To be paid forever, one must prepare for storms, for every empire is tested by time. A man who builds one fragile stream may see it dry. The man of wisdom builds many so that when one falters, the others sustain him. He diversifies his empire, land in one corner, investments in another, enterprises in yet another. Each feeds him differently, each protects him from the collapse of the other. In this way, his wealth is armored against chance. The laborer has only his wage. When it vanishes, he is ruined. The wealthy man has many streams. When one is lost, the river still flows. To create this empire demands a ruthless honesty with oneself. It requires the courage to stop chasing the illusion of security promised by employers, governments, or temporary contracts. These are not protections, they are cages. The man of wealth refuses to be caged. He takes risks, but they are calculated. He does not gamble blindly. He studies, he observes, he acts with precision. His empire grows not by luck but by design. One must also learn the art of replacement. The worker is always replaceable. The man of wealth learns to make himself irreplaceable. He does this not by tying everything to his own labor, but by ensuring that his systems, once built, cannot be ignored or bypassed. A man who invents a mechanism others depend on, who owns a resource others cannot replace, or who controls a service others cannot abandon, is forever irreplaceable. Even if he disappears, the system remains, and it continues to pay him. Generational foresight is another principle. The worker thinks in days and months, the rich in decades and centuries. The worker saves for retirement, the rich build empires for their descendants. To be paid forever means to build structures that survive beyond a single lifetime. Dynasties are not accidents. They are the result of men who thought not of themselves alone, but of the continuity of wealth through the bloodline. A man of vision ensures that what he builds outlives him, so that his name continues to command tribute from generations yet unborn. Above all, the construction of perpetual income requires a shift in identity. One cannot think like a servant and rule like a master. One cannot cling to safety and expect to command risk. The worker sees comfort in routine. The builder of empires sees decay in it. He embraces discomfort. He accepts uncertainty, for he knows these are the conditions in which power is created. He is not content with wages, with survival, with temporary stability. He seeks permanence, sovereignty, the throne that cannot be toppled by illness, age, or dismissal. Most men will live and die as prisoners of labor, chained to the hours of their day, begging for security from masters who profit from their ignorance. The path of perpetual wealth is not hidden. It is ignored. It begins with the vision to build machines that outlive your sweat, deepens with the wisdom to own rather than to serve. It sharpens with the discipline to place yourself where others cannot advance without enriching you. And it is secured with the foresight to construct empires that multiply, endure, and feed you long after you are gone. The wealthy are not superhuman. They simply refuse to be deceived by the illusions that enslave the masses. They do not chase wages, they do not cling to fragile promises, and they do not sell their time as though it were worthless. Instead, they treat time as the rarest of currencies, using it to build systems that never die. Their reward is not only freedom in life but power beyond it. Now the choice rests with you. You can continue as you are, giving your years to another man's design, or you can begin constructing your own. You can accept a future where money ends, when your labor ends, or you can forge a kingdom where money serves you without end. The difference is not fortune, not luck, but the courage to see and the will to act. Build wisely, and you too will be paid forever. Do you want me to also add a single striking quote, like a closing epigram that could serve as the final punchline of the video?